Hi, I'm Kevin, and this is Novel to You, where I read from my novels so you can enjoy them as an audiobook when you're walking the dog, when you're riding your bike, when you're making dinner, whatever you're doing. We're reading from Taemane, which means diamonds in Bantu. This is episode 18, chapter 28. We're getting close to the end. Here we go. The car door slammed and made Nick glance out the window. Claire was early, and the office wasn't arranged yet. The door was at best part fixed. The carpenter needed at least another hour. Nick would have to get to her first. He painfully slipped a boot over his bandaged foot and made for the door. Claire piled all her boxes and cases at the side of the car and watched as they were ferried up to the main house. She paid the driver, and he pulled away. The office door slammed closed, and she turned. She saw him watching her. She crossed to him. Nick made no attempt to move. She could come to him. She was all primped up with fancy clothes and was excited from her shopping. Like a strutting hen, she was trying to entice him. After so long chasing camp meals in the bush, Nick was getting everything he wanted and more. He could hardly wait to get the tight-faced blonde on her back and then totally have the mind. How stupid he'd been with years of petty smuggling. He could just marry the money. Shit, it was as easy as that. The large brimmed hat and long dress were awkward to walk in, and she had to watch where she stepped. Claire's mind was full of all her purchases. She was a woman desired. He would be so excited by the wedding dress she had bought, and Kate and Mary would love it too, she was sure. She wore one of her new dresses for the trip home. She wanted him to salivate at the plunging neckline and the wide-cut shoulders. Her makeup was heavy. The sexy, wide-brimmed hat was all the fashion in Europe. She knew he would drool when he saw her. She rushed up the last 2 steps to kiss him, but stopped when she saw his face. Christ! What happened to your face? I'll be okay. She fussed over the bruises and cuts on his face. Every touch was like fire, and he pushed her hands away. Last night, that bloody Alex, I told you he was bad news. I did what I could, but you better go see what you can do. He forced her back down the stairs, away from the office. What happened? What are you talking about, Nick? He tried to rape Kate. Alex? In her room. I know you said they were close. I guess he wanted more. I heard the screaming and I went up to help. He was crazy. He's run off. We haven't seen him since. Probably never will. Bastard. Alex wouldn't do that. I mean, I don't like him, but well, look what he did to my face, for Christ's sake. Kate is very, very confused. She's off her head. I thought you should try to talk to her before we call the police. Oh, God, thank you. Yes, I always knew that Black Hulk would damage her, but no. Well, the sooner he's locked up, the better. Bastard. Nick could see the venom towards Alex that Claire had always harbored would fall right into place. It was his word against Kate's. He could play this easily, and with Alex gone, it would appear it was an attempt to block the marriage. Claire touched his chest and leaned into him. I'll see her. Then I'll come back for you. She kissed him. She headed up to the house. He attempted to squeeze her butt when she turned, but she paid no attention. She hurried to see her sister. On the way up the slope to the house, Claire's thoughts swirled with all the problems of the past few months. Since Kate returned home and got involved with Alex, there had been nothing but trouble. Thieves, the death of her father, and now that she had finally got a good man to run the mine, Alex beats him to a pulp and then rapes Kate. It's as much Kate's fault as it is Alex's. She'll straighten this out. Get Alex in jail and Kate off the mine altogether. As she approached the house, she saw the distraught Mary standing on the veranda. What's happened, Mary? What the hell has Alex done? I'll see him hanged for raping her. What? No, that's not... Oh, shut up, you old woman. I should have had Dad throw you off on that big bastard years ago. Claire barged through the house, searching for Kate. It was difficult for the big woman to keep up. Mary's anger seemed to fuel her confused carcass, and she raced to stay close to the younger woman. Mary knew she had to watch that viper, Claire. Claire's greed and self-centeredness had to be handled carefully. "Kate's upstairs, but she won't let anyone in, Miss Claire. Alex and Nick had a big fight in the office. It's all busted up." "Well, I should think so. Thank God Nick stopped him. What the hell was Alex doing in her room?" "What? Alex hasn't been in her room. He hasn't been seen for 2 days." "You lying cow! I should run you off with that rapist." She yelled up the stairs to her sister. "Kate!" Claire reached the top of the stairs and strode straight to Kate's door and hammered on it. Kate was startled by the sound, so like the previous night. She grasped the gun and shakily pointed it toward the door. She didn't have to know how to use it. Just as soon as Nick was near, she'd just pull the trigger. Who cares about the consequences? Because if Alex... No, he had to be lying. Her mind bounced from fear back to hope. The revolver handle grew sweaty and even more uncertain. Mary and Claire leaned against the door and heard Kate sobbing. Kate was trying to get control of her mind as she began to hyperventilate. "Kate, open this door!" She shook the door handle hard and listened. Nothing. She tossed her purse onto the hall-side table and rummaged through it for her keys. Everything about her stupid little sister left her angry and frustrated. As soon as the key clicked open, she barged through the door, ready to straighten that little woman out. "I leave for a few days and everything goes to hell. Her tirade was cut short by the devastation of the room. She couldn't even see her sister in the rubble. The furniture was tossed around the room and the ordered array of trinkets littered the floor. It was as if the room had vomited its decor across the floor. She heard the sobbing, but failed to find Kate in the rubble. The black curtain of Mary swished past to the far corner of the bed. Mary moved straight toward the little woman, huddled half nude in the corner. Mary knelt to her as Kate extended her arms up. Her ivory arms and breasts were splattered with blood and purple bruises. Mary swallowed the little body in her arms, not even bothering with the pistol. She must comfort and stabilize her shattered little girl. Kate cried into the rolls of Mary's neck. "He's gone. Alex, is he? We'll never." "We'll find him and get the police on him." Kate looked past Mary and saw Claire for the first time. Violence ripped through her. She tried to scramble free, past Mary to rip Claire to pieces. Mary saw the gun. Kate was trying to aim it at Claire. Mary yanked it from Kate's feeble grasp. She tossed it on the bed, still holding the frantic little torso in one of her trunk-like arms. "You brought that bastard here! He did it all! He killed Alex, your bastard, and his thieves! He murdered Alex! He murdered Asif!" She broke free and lunged at Claire, ripping the collar of her dress. She twisted and threw the much taller Claire to the floor. Kate grabbed Claire's hair and yanked it up, then slammed her head hard on the floor. Mary, stunned by the news of Alex, was slow to get between them. By the time she arrived, Kate had scratched Claire's face and had a thick twist of blonde hair in her hand. She wanted to repeatedly slam Claire's head into the floor. "He tried to rape me. He killed Asif, and now he killed Alex. You're smuggling bastard. I hate him. I hate you." She leaned down close to the stunned Claire and spat the words in her ear. "I shot him, and I missed, but I'll kill him. I hate you. I'll kill him and his crew. Everyone hates you." Mary tied Kate's arms up and pulled her off Claire. The hysterical little woman wriggled free, trying to attack Claire again. Claire scampered back against the wall, and Mary again bundled the kicking little woman with her bulk. "I'll kill you, rapist. He doesn't love you. You're a whore to him. He killed Alex. My Alex. He... She gulped air frantically as the hysteria rolled over her. Her eyes seemed to swirl and swallow the room. Hate and grief swirled in her mind. It numbed her knees. She melted into the loving folds of Mary's massive body. Mary smothered her panic and tried to stifle the madness within her. Claire stumbled toward the door. She leaned against it, panting, watching her sister fall to pieces over the death of Alex. She straightened her dress and saw Nick's medallion on the floor, to the left of the bed. She marched over, picked it up, and raced from the room. How could the medallion have ended up in that room? She'd confront Nick. She barged through the door and across the veranda, but stopped as her feet touched the grass. The coolness of the grass rippled in her mind. Claire glared across the garden toward the mine. A few meters from the office entrance, amongst some barrels, she saw Nick paying a lot of bills to some blacks. All payments were cleared with her and Alex. What was this? She saw another man working on the door to the office. Nick didn't see Claire crossing the garden. Claire watched from the top of the garden as he limped back into the office. He appeared in a light-hearted mood. He turned at the office entrance and waved laughingly with the other men. She slowed and straightened her dress. She would have to formulate a plan. Kate's accusations screamed in her mind. She must think clearly. Claire was no man's whore. Her thoughts swirled. Claire paused outside the door. Duke was not there. That was a first. The missing dog made her think of the splint he'd had when Nick first arrived. Alex and the officer had been attacked by a killer dog that Alex had whacked. No, she shook her head. This wasn't her man. He loved her. They'd be married soon. Her eyes drifted to the frame of the door. It had been repaired, but the splintered trim hadn't been fixed. What had happened? She must decide who to trust, who had always been true to her. The answer that flashed through her mind appalled her. If anyone, it had always been Alex. She hated him, but he had never done or said anything to damage her. Like his father, Thomas stood behind her father. Alex, even though he was a black miner, stood behind her. Alex had put Kate and the mine in front of everything else. Her father liked him too. Why and how could he smuggle from the mine and then rape the girl that he already loves? It was totally unbelievable. Sure, she was sure they were lovers. How could he possibly harm her, rape her? It's impossible. She shook her head. Nothing made sense. Her hand rested against the door, about to push it. Why would she accuse Nick of rape and murder? The mine collapse was an accident, surely. But then Nick wasn't surprised or even upset. Nick's medallion was in Kate's room, and Mary said Alex hasn't been seen for 2 days. Yet the office is all busted up. Nick will know. He loves her. She can trust him. She has to be able to trust him. She pulled the door towards her. She saw Nick across the room, behind her father's desk. For the first time, his presence behind that desk didn't seem right. It was her father's desk, the owner of the mine. His face, plastered with bandages and purple-black welts, was not one she really even knew at all. She didn't know it that well. What, a few months? The Austinstadt mine was always a respected, honored business. Nick looked up, and she gave him a lecherous smile and turned to throw the new shoulder-height Yale lock on the door. She turned it closed. Facing the door, she undid the top 2 buttons of her dress. She could hear him come around the desk. She saw that the hat stand was gone. The gun cabinet was broken. Nick watched her from behind and knew what she wanted. The control of the mine was almost his. Wow. She all right? Claire turned to him slowly. She's confused. She can't understand it. Why, he's a bastard and a thief. I told you we had to be rid of him. He wrapped her in his arms from behind. Glancing down, Claire saw the bullet hole in his boot. The bloodied bandage on his foot could be seen, a red eye glaring out. He groped her from behind, and she tried to respond as her eyes raced around the office. Mary said Nick and Alex had a fight here, and Alex hasn't been seen for 2 days. The gun cabinet was broken, and much of the office has been hastily rearranged. She felt her dress being lifted, and he clawed at her panties. Is that all this is about? She moved him backward and pressed him against the desk. Her body slid up and down on his crotch. Her firm pubic bone pressed against his limp trousers. Behind him she saw 2 production sheets in the wastebasket of his desk. Those were only ever Alex's duty. Why were they rewritten? She grabbed his penis and rubbed it and squeezed it hard. There was nothing solid there. God, I've missed you, he whispered. She doubted that, as his penis was still limp. Really? Do you want me now? She continued to fake her excitement and tried to stimulate him. You want me, yeah? She saw the scratch marks from the medallion and the nail scratches behind his neck. Come on, get hard. Don't you want me? Your little penis all tired out? Nick stopped groping her and stared at her. Their faces were extremely close. She could see he was trying to calculate his next lie. Pain seared through from her legs. He had grabbed her tight between her legs, close, lifting her off the ground. The grasp of his hand ripped white lights of pain through her eyes. What has that little bitch told you? Claire gasped. Why is your medallion in Kate's room? Alex had a fight with you here. Did he find out about your little smuggling? You listen to me. It was Alex. He raped her. Rape her? They've been lovers for months. Claire struggled to free his hand. Let go! He held her tight. She pounded his chest. You're a thief! You're the bastard! He grabbed her throat with his other hand and shook her like a doll. He knew of her jealousy, so he tried another tactic. She came at me. Kate wanted me to screw her like I do you. I didn't want it. It's you, You're a liar! You think you can steal my mind? You can rape my sister? He tossed her against the desk, holding her throat. You'll do as I tell you. Claire reached for a small paper hole punch machine on the desk and slammed it into the side of his head. The cold, crisp metal handle was ungainly, and she fumbled with it. He spun her around, but she stepped on his injured foot, causing them to slip. He fell with her onto the side of the desk. She tumbled to the floor, but he hit the side of the desk, landing face down on the diamond scale, where his hunting knife was still lodged from the fight with Alex. The blade slipped deep between his ribs, high on his chest. It sliced an artery inside his lungs, and he felt the warm liquid flow. His chest immediately became heavier, thicker. He tried to force air down into his lungs, but fluid raced up. He straightened and raised his chest. Blood drizzled down his shirt. His chest heaved. It was tight. Pressure pounded inside his lungs. He struggled to gulp air. His head was pounding. Panic was gripping his mind. He had to stay calm. He had to get help. He turned on her. Claire had stepped back across the room as he fumbled with the scale and extracted himself off the knife blade. At first the bloodstain was small, and she thought he was going to come at her with the knife, but then she saw confusion and fear running through him. Claire felt no desire to go to him. They stared at each other. Hate spat from his eyes, and she backed away around the room as he half stumbled, half stalked her. He tried to keep the blood down, swallowing it as quickly as his mouth refilled. His lips were crimson and fresh. Rich red trickles flowed down his chin. His red teeth hissed at her. Get me help. I'll drown in my blood. Get me! Drops fell from his chin, striking the floor. He hunched forward. His eyes bulged as he tried to swallow and hold his own blood back down. He coughed, spurting blood down his shirt. His teeth swam red. Bastard! Where's Alex? He gurgled. He's dead. Get me help! She looked coldly at him, and with no sense of compassion or anger, she whispered, No. He realized the game was up and that he'd die. He loathed the rich, scrawny, tight-faced bitch. His legs weakened, and he sunk to his knees, still staring at the hard woman. He knew of their rivalry and couldn't resist one last stab at her With blood burbling from his mouth, he spewed, "She'd have been better than you." Claire picked up the heavy metal scales and slammed it into the side of his face, knocking him to the floor. He lay sloshing in his own blood as it pooled around him. She stared down at him, shocked at what she had done. This was the only man to have ever wanted her, and now his blood washed her shoes. She stepped out of the red slime and walked to the door. She locked him in. One Eye and 2 other wardens watched as she crossed slowly up to the house. When she was far enough away, they crept up the stairs and tried the office door. They looked through the window and saw Nick lying on his face on the blood-stained scales. Realizing their game was up, they slinked away from the building. Chapter 29. It was late. The room was lit by candles and a single kerosene lamp. The bed at Jamina's had been slid across to the center of the room. There was a pile of bloodied linen near the sink. Jamina and 3 other women crowded around the bed. The bandaged body of Alex rested peacefully on the bed. His broken legs both had splints, as did the swollen arm. His ballooned face was barely visible through the swirl of bandages. One woman knelt at his side, trying to slip water between his swollen lips. "It's a wonder he's still alive." Jamina touched the unresponsive body. "All night, crawling through the bush? Only Alex has that kind of strength. We must tell Kate. Maybe we should take some time before we do that. Bang on the head like that. We don't know if Alex can even think." Jamina laid her hand on the muscular shoulder of the beaten man. "She would want him in her arms, whatever. If he makes it through the night, we'll send word tomorrow." And we'll stop there. Thanks very much. This is Novel to You. I'm Kevin, and we're reading Taemane. We'll see you in the next episode, episode 19. Until then, be well.